Welcome. This is our monthly free Happy House Hunters online Zoom meetup. We've decided to keep this one on Zoom because we've had some folks tapping in from other states. We have some folks tapping in, all around and far enough away that it would be hard for them to meet in person. So what we do on the first Tuesday of every month is we do a Zoom call, and we're going through the 6 F's of real estate. Now I get to test myself to see if I can name these off the top of my head.
Oh,
So we start with finding the property, then we have to fund it, then fix it, then we can either flip it or fill it. And finally, what is our freedom number in real estate? So we go through the 6 F's January through June, and then in July we start over. So we're starting again with finding, and we have with us today, we have Harvey and Christy and Josh, and they're going to share how they find properties. This is going to be recorded. This is our free meetup, and I will put in the chat box as they get started where you can find the replay. And you can tap in at any time and listen to all the replays. I have 2 years worth of replays of the 6 F's.
wow.
And we try to pick a different speaker or panel each meeting. And so that way you get a little bit of a different twist on finding and funding and fixing all the way through. So anyway, so thank you for being with us, but we're all missing that contact, that in-person contact. So we are also going to meet on the 4th Thursday of every month just for a meet and greet. And we're just going to pass the mic. Everybody in the room gets to say who they are, where they're from. This is going to be an in-person. And then they get to say what it is they do and what it is that they're looking for. And so we're hoping to make some connections there on that 4th Thursday. And we're going to be at Gresso's, where we met before the pandemic. We're going to go back to Gresso's, and they're working with us. And he said that we could meet downstairs in that little area, at the, downstairs, or kind of in the back. Or he said if we grow large enough again, which we think we may, he'll let us have the room upstairs again, and we'll have our own private server. So anyway, so come for dinner, stay for drinks, make connections. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So we now have some attendees. We have Alex Rose, we have Giovanna Mercier, and Tom Chan are listening in. And so I'm going to turn it over to Harvey, and I'm going to let you just get started for us. So go ahead, Harvey.
Cool. Well, thank you, Kathy. And I really appreciate this group, and I appreciate your persistence and your consistency with this group. Even when things got weird, you're always putting out good content, and you're always keeping people together. So we especially admire that, because we have a similar meetup. Mm-hmm. Josh and I do. It's called the Newbie Real Estate Investor Meetup. And we started it, I don't know, almost 2 years ago now, I guess. Obviously focused on newbie real estate investors, people who have done 5 or less deals. And we completely shut down when, in fact, I was looking back through our meetup schedule today, and on March 15th we were supposed to have one, and it got canceled. And so we weren't as persistent as you, so very admirable. And speaking of Newbie Real Estate Meetup, we're doing a series right now on commercial real estate. And actually, Kathy is our next guest. We started that series because Josh and I have grown in our career in residential real estate, and are now extremely interested in commercial real estate as kind of a next step in our journey. So when we want to learn things from smart people like Kathy, we start meetups to get them in and talk about these things, so that we can learn for free. So it's Newbie Real Estate Investor Meetup, and the next meeting is July 15th in person at the Whetstone Community Center. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. So I'm a real estate investor and real estate agent in Columbus, Ohio. I'm originally from Akron, Ohio, and been full-time in real estate since 2016-ish. I had a W-2 job working for the government that I quit and decided I wanted to go do something on my own. Moved to Columbus. We bought our first live-in flip. We still own it today. Started with I don't know, started with zero. Well, we started with one rental property that we happened into. Now we own 9. Some of those are owned by just us. Some of them are owned as a partnership, and also recently own a small share in 150 units in Mobile, Alabama. Do some private lending, and Josh and I own a home investors franchise here in Columbus, Ohio. We do some assigning, we do some flipping, but our goals are to acquire and hold property for long-term wealth building and cash flow. Christy is our acquisition specialist / buyer. When the phone rings, we market directly to seller. When the phone rings, she takes it from there, and she's really good at having conversations with sellers and figuring out solutions for sellers that are win-win for both us as the buyer and the seller. As you can imagine, we run into very unique situations in our line of work. So that's me. Josh and Christy, do you want to say anything else about who you are and what you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thanks for having us, Kathy. Yeah, Harvey kind of touched on our business a little bit there, but I've got a small portfolio myself with my wife and I, and just yeah, trying to build up the rental portfolio. I've spoken a time or two here for Happy House Hunters before, so if you guys go back and check the replay, the extensive replay library, you can find out a little bit more about me specifically.
Yes, Josh, I did put the link in the chat box. So for those of you that are listening, you can click on the chat box, and that's where you will find the replays. Christy, how about you?
Hi, thanks for having us, Kathy. I'm Christi Hawkins. I live in Mount Vernon and have been in residential real estate for about 25 years and have recently decided to switch my focus to the investing side. And so I'm trying to learn everything I can about the investing side from Harvey and Josh.
Good teachers.
Yes, very good teachers. Very good teachers.
And thanks, Christy.
You're
and we're going to get into, obviously that's why we're here, is to talk about how we're finding deals right now, especially in this market. But I want to preface everything we're talking about with, we're still learning too. And as the market shifts, we're trying to adapt as fast as we can. And we're also still working on ourselves, and especially in the mindset category, which I'm going to hit on. And then, so I'm going to talk a little bit about mindset, the mindset to finding properties and acquiring deals, and then turn it over to Josh and Chrissy to talk a little bit more about actual tactics for finding deals specific to what's working for us. Obviously, there are things that work. There are things that work for other people and not us. And there are things that work for us that may not work for you. So we can speak with most authority, obviously, on the things that are just working for us. So let's talk about mindset. We have this model. I guess I have this model for getting what you want. And it starts with vision, and then it goes into goals, and then we talk about who do you want to be, or how do you need to be, then talk about habits, and then debriefing the whole process. And if you've read The Secret, or you know anything about the law of attraction, this vision idea is having an idea of what you want your life to look like, and then spending time thinking about it and spending time speaking it. So if you can see it and you speak it, then you have it. And it sounds a little bit hokey or woo-woo, but it's powerful. And the more successful people that Josh and I run into, the more that this mindset and this skill set, it's ubiquitous. I mean, successful people, this is what they do. They have a vision, they think about it a lot, they speak it into existence, which means they tell themselves and they tell other people what they're going to do, what they're going to have, and how they're going to be. And then voila, if you say that enough, your mind puts things into existence. And this is hard, this is one of the things we're still working on, but a good way to know where your mindset is to carefully listen to the language that you use and solicit feedback on the list. Give other people permission to give you feedback on the language that you use and the words that you use. If you're saying things like, I don't have, I can't do, your mind doesn't know anything but what you're speaking to existence. So it's just going to give you more of that, lack, give you more of whatever it is that you're saying you can't do or can't be. So if you're saying, I need to find deals, but I don't have any money, keep saying that and you won't do any deals. But if instead you said, here's my vision, here's how many deals I want to do, and set up some specific goals and then daily habits around it, you'd be amazed what you can accomplish and where you can go. So you have your vision, okay? Then you have your goals. And then your goals should align with your vision. You can set them for long-term, medium, short-term, whatever you want to do, but they should be measurable and they should have a deadline around them. And obviously they should point towards your vision. And then the piece that I think most people miss is, okay, if I want to be this, if I want to be somebody who has X rental properties and is financially free, how do I need to be? What is a person who's already doing that? What are they doing? How are they being? What are their habits? Define that, okay? So for instance, I had a goal setting session with Christy recently. She wants to do a certain amount of volume. So we said, okay, a person who's doing that amount of volume, how are they being? What are they doing? Well, she said, well, they're probably checking MLS a lot. They're probably following up very consistently. Okay, great. So we listed a bunch of attributes of this person who's already doing what she wants to do. Then you take it from the being into the habits. Then that's the last step to get it more granular. So if a person who's being and doing the volume that Christy wants to do, if they're checking MLS frequently and they're following up consistently, now let's do a daily habit. Okay, so I'm going to check MLS every single day, and I'm going to follow up with at least 10, 20 people from our CRM on a daily basis. Boom, daily habit, which goes into leads right into the being, which leads into the goals, which leads into your vision. You can focus on the habits without even looking up. You'll get closer to your vision. I would suggest that with those habits that you use some sort of tracker that has, every day of the month, and then your daily habits that you want to achieve on the left-hand side, and you're just marking off when you do it. That way you can look back and see your consistency, or maybe the lack thereof if you're not getting what you want. Put your goals in your habit tracker in front of you daily. And then the last piece of this is a debrief. Probably about quarterly, you need to go back and see, okay, are these habits and goals still serving me? Am I moving closer to my vision? If so, great. Do I need to tweak them at all, or can I keep rolling with them? If not, then why not? And do I need to amend some of these habits or amend some of these goals, which does happens a lot. You may set a goal and then figure out that, all right, this doesn't really serve me anymore. I need to change this goal. It's okay to change your goals. Last thing I'd say is tell people what you want. Tell people what you want to do. Josh has a habit of just talking to anybody who will listen to him about real estate. That's his goal. He goes to family functions and he just starts talking about real estate. So guess what? Everybody in Josh's network knows about Josh. Josh is into real estate. And if they ever run across a property where the seller needs to sell and maybe distress, guess who they're probably going to think of? We hope. And don't think that you have to do this by yourself, because you're probably better off if you team up with somebody else. And that could look like a lot of different things, but I mean, look at us, me, Christy, Josh, we're all working at this together, and we can get a lot further together than we can trying to do this by ourselves. So again, the model is a vision, goals, being, habits, and debrief, repeat. That's high level mindset piece that I think is fundamental to before you even start into the tactics, which really feed into your habits. Something that you should practice. So, Josh, let's talk about some actual tactics for finding deals. What's working for us right now?
Yeah. So a lot of our business model is, we spend a significant amount of money every month, in marketing. And a lot of that goes through, home investors. And there's some different tactics that they use, like direct mail. We have some billboards. You guys have probably seen the billboards around with the cartoon caveman. And then a lot of internet SEO, Google AdWords, Facebook ads, all those kinds of things. But that's probably the most consistent marketing that we do. But those costs recently, post COVID, have kind of been climbing up a little bit. So our focus more recently has been on some of these various kind of like grassroots tactics, trying to find deals, different ways to kind of help drive down some of our overall cost. Harvey kind of touched on relationships a little bit, but one of the things that we like to do is just tell everybody that we know what we do and how we do it. And that's in deal flow, but also other things like raising private money and those sorts of things. But yeah, just like the second property that I ever bought was from my boss's parents. I just happened to be talking about real estate. They said they had a duplex that they wanted to sell. And one thing led to another, and that was just an absolute home run deal. Yeah, I haven't seen the deal that quite that sweet yet since, but so that's kind of one example of there. But I think kind of overarching there in the relationship bucket is, we actually kind of talked about this earlier, but if you are building a relationship with somebody and they're giving you an opportunity, just making sure that you're performing, and kind of nurturing that relationship so that in the future get that opportunity again, because those types of opportunities come once, and if you mess it up, they're likely to go somewhere else in the future. So even though we do a lot of our own marketing and we do some wholesaling and those sorts of things, we do also buy properties from wholesalers. So we kind of are able to leverage other people's marketing costs and work on some deals with the other local wholesalers. What we've seen recently in that area that's been working very well is just follow up with wholesalers. So anytime we're making an offer on a property from a wholesaler, if the offer is not accepted, then we schedule that follow-up to make sure that whoever did go into contract on that property gets the deal done, and makes it all the way to the closing. And a handful of the wholesale deals we've done recently have all kind of been on the second pass. So we make an offer, when the property initially gets marketed, and they might take an offer, maybe it's $5,000 higher than we were going to pay. So usually what we'll do then is just, we schedule ourselves a follow-up for, maybe a week, 5-7 days out. And at that point, we'll follow up the wholesaler and make sure that that deal is still together. The amount of, I think, wholesale deals right now that are kind of blowing up somewhere between contract and closing, seems to be a lot. I'm not really sure what the issue there is, but so a lot of times, we call back in 7 days and we say, hey, how's it going? Is that still in contract? And the wholesaler says, no, the buyer bailed, and now we need somebody to close this deal in the next 7 days or whatever it is. Is your offer still good? We can do the deal, and we go into contract that way. So And even going all the way through as far as to like closing, if asking the wholesaler when that property is closing, and then, maybe a day or two, couple days prior to when it's supposed to close, just checking back in, make sure that they, whoever was the buyer there was able to get the deal done.
Josh, I don't want to derail what you're talking about, but how do you keep track of those dates? Do you have I don't know, a software program, or are you just, pen and paper?
Yeah, no, Harvey mentioned it a minute ago. It's a great question. So we have what we call a CRM. So it's a customer
Okay.
relations management software program. We actually work with Salesforce, but yeah, so anytime we get a lead on a property, so if somebody calls in to sell a property, that gets locked into the CRM, and then any interaction we have with that person is going to get noted. And then all appointments, calls, scheduled follow-up, all that stuff gets logged in the CRM. So in the case of like wholesale deals, whenever we make an offer on a property, we're going to go put the whole thing into the CRM with all the
Okay.
information. And that's how we kind of set ourselves the reminders. Yeah, we I actually don't know. Harvey and Christi spend more time in there than I do, but there's, probably several hundred active, what we call opportunities at this point. So just over the couple of years that we've been doing this. So keeping track of them on pen and paper, although some people do it, would be very difficult for me at least. So yeah, the CRM.
Okay, perfect.
I would think you could, especially if you weren't doing that much volume, you could use Google Calendar to do it, I think.
Yeah, and sometimes it is just a Google Calendar. It just kind of depends on the situation, but yeah, if it's just like, if I know I just need to check in the next day, I might just throw it on my calendar, or even in my planner, I might just jot myself a note if I'm out and about. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and it's all kind of depends on volume. There are some free CRM software out there, like there's one called Podio that a lot of folks use, and you can get a basic free version of that, kind of help just keep things in order. But yeah, a lot of our business is follow-up, so we try to keep that really clean.
I have a question, Kathy. Is your audience primarily people who are looking to get into real estate investing full-time as a full-time career, or is it people who are trying to build wealth on the side as they work a different career?
A little bit of everything. Of course, once I got started, I wanted to retire. And so for me, my purpose in learning everything I could learn and investing was so that I could leave my day job, basically. Again, I'm going to get into my backstory when you guys talk with me at your next meetup. But I was in a situation where my health was starting to fail, and I really knew that I was a little bit like Mark. I'd mentioned when we first came on that Mark got done before the projects did. Well, I got done before my clients did in my corporate jobs, and I was having some health issues and had some surgery scheduled, and so it was time for me to create some cash flow for myself. And so the quickest way I could think to do that was with real estate. So that's how I got into it. And because I kind of struggled early on, I have a heart for those folks that want to do it and they just don't know how to take that first step. So I have a lot of folks in our group that are just now taking their first step, and they have a dream, and Harvey, your point is so well taken. And I'm telling you, your mindset is right along with all of ours, with mine and Kyle's. I see Derek is on. Derek has even talked about the mindset thing with the group before. And so I get it. And that's, again, I would love to instill that in all of our members of the Happy House Hunters, to just, create the mindset and create the dream and just keep working toward it. But since we've been doing this for a while, I do have now some folks that have 10, 20, 30 properties.
Nice.
And so they're making it happen. So now it's kind of spread out. We still have some of those newbies, but we also have some in the middle and some that are making a career out of it.
Nice. So in the name of collaborating with people and leveraging time and resources, Josh, mainly wholesalers from what you're talking about, where do I find these people? How do I make connections with them? And how do I see what deals they have?
Yeah, I mean, most of the, well, so it kind of depends on the wholesaler where they market their properties, but a lot of them have their own email list. I think the easiest way if you're kind of new and looking to network with wholesalers is just through some of the local Facebook groups. So there's kind of all these off-market real estate groups that exist. I don't know, there's a ton of deals that go through like the Happy House Hunters group necessarily, but there's the Columbus Dealmaker Sessions group. There's a Facebook group called the Cream, CREAM. So a lot of those kind of groups, a lot of properties are getting marketed through there. If you can connect with the individual wholesalers, you can get on their individual email list, so you can get those you know, those properties being marketed right into your inbox. I think the other thing that might be helpful is if you can find a realtor who has some experience with off-market real estate, they can probably get you connected pretty easily as well.
Cool. Any other tactics that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, two others, I think, and kind of going back for a second, I think the interesting thing about a lot of these tactics is they can either be used for people who are, just getting started and trying to kind of dig up their first couple deals, or also like where we're at right now is we're kind of trying to implement some of these tactics to just kind of drive our costs down a little bit and kind of even out the marketing budget. But the other two things I think we've focused on recently are working with vendors. So for instance, just last week, the guy who does all of our trash outs, the clean outs of our houses, he also targets hoarders specifically for his business. So just he's targeting houses that are or have been occupied by hoarders, and they're cleaning the houses out prior to them being listed with retail real estate agents. And so usually if he comes across an opportunity like that, he's going to try to connect me directly to the seller and give us an opportunity to purchase the house before it goes to market, the retail market. And he knows, like, whether we buy the house prior to him getting his work done or not. Like if we're able to buy the house, we not only pay him a fee for helping us get the deal, but then he also is definitely getting the work of cleaning out the house as well. So he feels pretty safe in that. Either way, he's going to get that job, whether he gets it and then they list with an agent or they sell us the house. Either way, he's going to get to clean it out. So we've got one of those that's active right now. I haven't closed it yet, but working on that. So that's been one, just kind of working with vendors. I know some people have relationships with their title company or, different things like that. Maybe there's a deal that's going through your title company, and then on the day of closing, for whatever reason, the buyer can't perform. Well, they might call us and say, hey, we've got this deal in our office that just totally blew up for whatever reason. Is there any way you guys can help get it done? Maybe the seller is waiting on those funds to buy their next house or whatever it is. So just kind of building those relationships with various vendors. And I think the least sexy tactic of all, one that's been working and that we're going to really kind of double down on is door knocking. Just going out into the community, finding visibly distressed houses, and just going up and knocking on the door. We've kind of got a system that we use for that. So we drive around, we find the house, we knock on the door. If nobody answers, we have some little door hangers that we can leave behind so they know we've been there. sometimes we're writing a note on the back of those. And then also adding those in, we use an app called Deal Machine, where once we add those property addresses in, and then they start receiving direct mail from us as well. More specifically though, recently been having success with just not only knocking the door of the distressed house, but knocking on the neighbor's door as well, because that's kind of my pro tip is like the neighbors, they know everything. And in most cases, people don't want to live next to a distressed property. And so if you tell them that you want to buy the house and fix it, they're happy to give you all of the information you could ever possibly need to get it done. But yeah, those are kind of a couple things that that I've been focused on and that have been producing for us.
Yep, I've done a few of those. I get
Yeah,
it.
I would add too, Josh is really good about when we are doing a flip or we have a rental property, 10 houses around, 10 houses back, 10 houses forward, business card. And there's a lot of benefit to that. Obviously, if you have tenants, you let them know, hey, I'm the landlord of this house. Please feel free to call me directly if you have any issues with anything going on over there. Then they feel like they have an outlet if they have issues. And they also know that you're a landlord. If there's another house in the area that, or even they want to sell, they might reach out to you. So that's a good tactic as well that Josh takes care of us. Christy, do you want to talk about probate?
Sure. Another avenue that we're using to get deals is through probate. And probate just means that when somebody passes away, their estate goes through the probate process. So the executor is the person that handles that process. And so it's imperative to get a hold of that executor. They're the person in charge. You can get several different ways you can get that information. It's all public and it's all free. You can go to the Franklin County Probate website and just go through all of the new probate deals and pick out ones you want where you think there might be a house involved. There are websites where you can purchase the information, and they'll send you a spreadsheet with all that information on it. The thing I like the most about it is that it gives you the opportunity to set yourself apart from your competition, which is, I think, another way to find deals as well. You set yourself apart from your competition, and you do that by talking to sellers when you're sitting down at a kitchen table or on a couch or standing on a bunch of trash with a seller. You really have to, that can't be about the house. It really can't be about the house. It has to be about them. And they'll remember you for that. I'm old fashioned. I still like to use a lot of handwritten notes. Every time I have an appointment with somebody, they get a handwritten note from me saying thank you. If I've had a really interesting phone call with somebody, I'll send them a thank you note. But I do that on a consistent basis, and you'll pick up deals from that. Did we mention driving for dollars?
He did as part of the door knocking.
Okay. I want to make sure I mentioned that as well.
I was going to ask you, if I acquired a list of probate leads, executors, for instance, in a county, and let's say they're already skip traced, or I've figured out how to skip trace them. Okay. Then what am I doing?
Well, we originally, when I started a couple of years ago into the probate arena, I went with a company called All the Leads, and they're out of Florida. They have a website, and they provide letters for you. They can, you could obviously make up your own. You send the executor a letter that basically describes who you are. The first letter doesn't really talk about the house. This first letter talks about, how sorry I am for your loss. And, whenever it's the right time, please feel free to reach out to me. I have a series of about 7 letters that I use throughout, that I send each month to the executors, because you're not necessarily going to get somebody to call you from the first letter. That happens, but it usually takes a few months.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you have to kind of send those letters out in a succession.
Okay. And I probably could just call them too, or?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. Do you do both?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do both.
Okay. And so that's probate.
Mhm.
What about once you said once you were setting yourself apart, once you're in front of a seller.
Mhm.
So if you are, and if there are people listening to this who wind up in front of sellers, especially, okay, so what we're talking about is you're talking directly to a homeowner about buying their house. There's nobody in between. It's just a direct conversation, right?
Okay.
So especially if I'm brand new to that, you said focus on them, but maybe talk about that a little bit more about
Okay.
what it is you're actually providing, what you're actually selling, and then most of the time, what are some of the interests or concerns that they have or needs that they have in that transaction that you can focus on and solve for them?
Up, you're on mute, Christy.
Sorry, I muted it again.
There you go.
What I meant by focus on them is you focus on what their problem is. Don't calculate your commission in your head, while you're standing there, which is hard. Which I get it, that's easy to do. You have to actually care about what's going on in their life that brought them to this moment. Because whatever is happening did not happen overnight. They've avoided things, they've put things off, and they're coming to you, and now they're in a completely different situation than they ever thought they'd be in. So you have to actually care about what happens to the seller. I mean, about what they're going through. I don't mean about them, but about what they're going through. And you have to show that just by listening, I think, just by listening. And as far as, what they need, they all need something different. Some just need a shoulder to cry on. Some just need you to listen to them. But specifically, I think what I find most are worried about, are they going to have to make any repairs? Are you gonna buy my house as is? So I like to say that, several times, again and again. Are they going to have to pay any of the closing costs? In our particular situation, we pay all the closing costs, so they don't. So I try to reiterate that again and again and again, so that they understand that, other than their taxes, they have to pay the taxes. But I guess as far as, setting yourself apart from your competition, everybody can go in and throw out a number and be there and in and out in 15 minutes. You just have to listen. If that's the one piece of advice I can give everybody, is listen. Listen more than you talk, which is hard for me.
Oh, it's not.
It is. It is very. And I mean, there are times where I've been there for an hour and we haven't even talked about the house yet.
Yeah.
I haven't even taken pictures yet.
Yeah.
But it will serve you well in the long run. Oh, another place, Craigslist. Don't forget about Craigslist too. I found a couple of good deals on Craigslist.
Yeah, we got one earlier this year. Great.
Yeah, we did.
Craigslist. Yeah.
Christy,
Yeah.
Andorra has her hand up. So I think, Andorra, can you unmute yourself? Did you have a question?
Yes, I can hear that. So my question is, and I apologize, I've missed some of this, but what is the advantage as a real estate investor to go with a wholesaler as opposed to a real estate agent? I mean, the first thing I'm going to say is it the commission? Is that what are the advantages to use a wholesaler to sell my property rather than going to a real estate agent?
I'm sorry.
Wait, are you talking from as a homeowner and home seller?
Talking from like, I have, as a real estate investor, let's say I have a rental property and I want to sell it. So what would be your elevator speech to me to use a wholesaler versus a real estate agent, or is there an advantage over one over the other?
Well, I can touch on
Yeah.
that real quick. I was just going to make a comment anyways. I think I was having coffee with another investor this morning, and I was telling him, you know, we find that almost 100% of people that call us to sell their house say that they're motivated by money and that they want to get the most amount of money for their house possible. And then when we go out on the appointment and we go through our process and we ask questions and we listen to them and we dive into their situation, almost 100% of the time, if they're really our customer, they're actually not motivated by money. They're motivated by something else. And so, you know, and we tell sellers as well, if they have a house that's in perfect condition and they, you know, they don't need to sell it quickly and they're motivated by money and they want to get the most amount of money possible, then it does make sense for them to sell it with a real estate agent. But if they have a myriad of other issues that they're dealing with and they are motivated by, say, time, for instance, we just put a house in contract yesterday that we're closing in 7 days. That's not likely to happen through the normal retail real estate sales process. So if time is your biggest motivator, then you're going to need to find somebody who can solve that issue for you. A lot of the properties that we buy are highly distressed. So we offered on a house recently that has a tree fell on top of the house and just literally punched a hole through the roof, and it's been like that for who knows, years maybe. That, you know, that's going to be one that is maybe a little bit more difficult to sell with a retail real estate sales agent just because of the condition. You're not going to be able to get a loan on that property. You're going to need a cash buyer, etc. So I think it's just a matter of kind of you know, figuring out if you're the seller, you know, what it is that you're trying to get out of the sale, and then figuring out which person can help you achieve that.
Okay, yeah, I was always curious. So I think what I heard you say is if you have a house and let's say it's not in the greatest shape and time is of the essence, you're saying wholesaling is probably a better option than going with a real estate agent and listing, because if you go with a real estate agent, then you know there's many things that you have to do. You can sell it as is on today's market, but based on like the example that you gave with the tree, you know, you're right, that would be one that could probably not be listed with a real estate agent. So it's really, if a property is distressed, then it's best to do it with a wholesaler. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really case by case, and that's kind of what Christy, I think, was touching on. Like, really just it depends on the seller situation and kind of just trying to dive in and see exactly what it is that they need. We deal with so many obscure situations. We have a really great video on your YouTube channel. We bought a house from a guy, and you know, he had some family members living in the house and they had some mental health issues, and we had to purchase the house with the people still living in it. You know, that was his issue, was he couldn't figure out how to deal with the people inside of the house, so he sold the house with them in it and, you know, made it our issue. And so I think it really just depends on the situation.
Mhm.
I don't know if Harvey or Christy, if you guys had anything to add to that.
I want to jump in and say one thing is I have bought some distressed properties through a real estate agent. So I think it can go either way.
Yeah.
And also, I just want to kind of reset the room a little bit. We have 4 attendees that are listening in, as well as everyone that's on the panelist side, which are either speakers today or part of our leadership team. We have Alex, Giovanna, Tom, and Vince. So if any of you have any questions, please put those in the chat box for us. And then I'll turn it back over again to Harvey and Christy. Did you have any additional comments?
I was just going to say that, I mean, I look on the MLS every day. You can certainly find distressed homes listed on the MLS. You absolutely can. A wholesale, well, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to look outside your market either, depending on how
Yeah.
comfortable you are with purchasing outside your market. I mean, that's a whole nother class, but there's sites like Roofstock, for instance, that make investing in other markets pretty approachable. I mean, Roofstock pre-vets the deal in terms of cap rate and yield. They pre-vet the buyer. You can only do offer on Roofstock if you're pre-approved. But then they handle the whole process. They pay for the inspection. If the inspection meets their standards, they guarantee the rent for up to 90 days. They pre-vet property managers in the areas where you're buying, so you're working with trusted vendors with a lot to lose, really, if they're messing up Roofstock client relationships. So that's also because markets like Columbus are just freaking expensive, and you might be in a market that's freaking expensive, and there are cheaper markets, more affordable markets. Just consider it. You don't necessarily have to buy something in your backyard.
I can agree with that. We just bought a condo in Florida mid-December, and it's a 55 and over community. And just this past, I'd say 8 weeks, when we went back down again, because we try to go down every 6 weeks or so, we discovered that a unit has come empty in our building, and of course it went into probate. So I was very interested to hear what Christi had to say, because I have the daughter's phone number and I haven't called because I don't know what to say. I mean, other than I'm really sorry for your loss.
Right. Right.
How do you segue to go, oh, and by the way, can I buy that condo?
The first call, it's very much, I'm sorry for your loss. That's the first phone call. If there's, I try to just, if there's one opening that I can get it in, and they may say from one of the letters, they may say, oh no, the property's already sold. I just wanted to thank you for the letter. Oh, okay. That, and then I can cross them off my list. But you know what? They really want your help. They really do. I mean, the daughter, who knows who she knows? Who knows?
Well, and she doesn't live in Florida. She lives in another state. So now she's got this condo that I'm sure
she doesn't want.
Yeah.
Probably not. So she really does need your help to call and ask her, hey, I live in the building. Just wanted to know if you had any plans for the condo, if I could help you do anything to sell it.
And in and around Wade, maybe, and this is advice I got from somebody else recently who knocks on doors of pre-foreclosure people. He shows up with a list of help and solutions for them that aren't him buying the property.
Oh, wow.
For instance, if you contacted somebody in your condo building who is going through probate, you might say, hey, I'm there a lot. We just bought this place. I have a relationship with a great mover, a great clean out person, a great handyman person. I'm happy to share that information with you should you need it. Start the relationship that way, where you're putting out info and help. And then, oh, by the way, I'm also interested in purchasing your property. If it goes down that road.
Great advice. Thank you for that.
So I guess I would wrap this up with, if I'll assume that you don't want to go full-fledged real estate investor, because that I feel like is a lot. There's a lot on that side. But if you're looking for deals and to add to your rental portfolio, or maybe to do on the side, I would get involved in real estate network, as many real estate investor networks as you can in your local area or whatever market you want to buy in. And then I would start forming a relationship with wholesalers to leverage their time, their marketing and their expertise negotiating contracts to buy deals. And then I'd also get a good real estate investor, real estate agent on your side as well, somebody who understands what you're looking for, but then also maybe does some investing or works with a lot of investors, so they know what they're doing, they know what they're looking for, they know how to write offers, they know how to negotiate contracts. Those are the first two steps tactically that I would recommend.
And that's what we hope to provide with our fourth Thursday, where folks can just show up and really build those relationships with each other and find out, you know, what everybody does and what they're looking for. So what it is that they can do for the group, and then what it is that the group at large is actually looking for, and then make, you know, do some of that matchmaking. And then of course we have Kyle in our back pocket. Wave Kyle. And he definitely understands the investment side of things. And most of you remember that we had Stephanie Jenkins, and she passed away this year. We lost Stephanie this year, and
Wow.
Kyle and Stephanie were partners. And so anyhow, we're so blessed to have Kyle, because he certainly understands, because he worked very closely with Stephanie and very closely with me with our group. So we're happy to have him on board. So
Good.
thank you for that.
That's great.
Now, I want to just put it out there for questions. And I know Andorra had a question. Do we have any questions from anyone else?
Hi, this is Andorra again. I do have
Yep.
one other question. So with everyone that's on here, what I would assume that none of the wholesalers are real estate agents or were ever a real estate agent. And how did they get into this profession? And if I missed that part, I apologize. I got on a little later.
I would consider myself a wholesaler at times, and that's only, you know, if we get wholesaling is when you get a contract on a property, let's say in Newark. We don't want to hold property in Newark, and we don't really want to manage a rehab project in Newark. So we market that contract to a buyer who maybe does want to hold or rehab in Newark, who buys the contract from us at a higher price, and we keep the margin. So from time to time, I am a wholesaler, but I'm also a real estate agent. I was a real estate agent first, but I'm not sure that matters. I think the two are relatively independent of each other.
Yep, I agree
So-
with that.
So what made you decide not to continue, or I presume that you are still being a real estate agent, but what made you decide? Is it like much more lucrative to be a wholesaler as opposed to a real estate agent?
It depends on your goals. I got into the real estate investment business because, like Kathy and a lot of people on this call, I wanted to accumulate rental properties, and I saw efficiency in starting a real estate investment business where we marketed directly to sellers so I could get more access to more distressed property. I'm a real estate agent mostly so that I have control over the contracts and negotiations that we do on the sale side if we are flipping and going retail, or anything we put on MLS. So I'm a real estate agent for convenience and control, but my goals are not to list 100 properties a year or be a buyer's agent. That just does not suit my personality and doesn't align with my vision and my goals.
Yeah, and the wholesaling too, like you said, is wholesaling for us really is a byproduct of excess lead generation. So we generate more leads than we can hold. We wholesale them. So Harvey's goals are neither real estate agent or wholesaler, but both things align well with us trying to build a large rental portfolio. Now, there are people whose goals are to be the best real estate agent or to be the best wholesaler, and they may have different strategies. But
Vince has made some comments. chat box. Earlier, Harvey, you were talking and Vince says that those items are key, what you were talking about earlier. He said being an agent typically involves fiduciary responsibility. Can you speak to that?
Well, sure. If you're a real estate agent and you have a client, which is a specific term for somebody you have a contract with to represent, you do have a fiduciary responsibility to them to represent their best interest and to pretty much within the law do whatever they say. And that's very different than a wholesaler who, if you're selling your property to a wholesaler, that wholesaler does not have your best interest in mind, even though they may care about your situation and working a win-win situation for you. They're not legally bound to take care of you or do what you say or make sure that your needs are taken care of, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, it's really that whole thing is a matter of disclosure. And we're very clear and upfront with people, whether we're operating as real estate agent or if we're operating on the wholesale side, we're always very transparent to the fact that Harvey is a real estate agent, that we do buy houses for profit. And those sorts of things. So normally when you run into issues with that type of stuff, it's a disclosure issue and people are not being forthcoming with all of the information that's available.
Now, Vince also makes a comment that that you're going to have greater knowledge if you're a realtor. Do you find that being a realtor has helped you push your goals and your objectives a little faster or easier than not being an agent?
Definitely for me, yes. One being I have a broker who is a big time investor and mentor. And I joined that brokerage specifically for that benefit. Mm-hmm. I understand that's individual to me, but I would also say that obviously being able to save on commission on the sales side is imperative. And real estate agents, they take continuing education, which is not just about real estate, but about ethics and law and that sort of education and tools. It just rounds you out. It makes you, it just rounds out your real estate investment or just your real estate perspective. And I mean, I don't know, maybe more knowledge can't be a bad thing.
I get it. And one of the things that we're doing is, as I mentioned earlier, that we had lost Stephanie this year. And so what we did is we created the actual Stephanie Jenkins initiative, where we are giving away a scholarship toward any person that wants to get licensed as a realtor. We'll pay, depending on our donations that come in, we'll pay a portion or even in full if we have that volume of donations for their pre-licensing education.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we gave away 2 scholarships this past May. We give away on her birthday, which is May 9, and we'll be giving away scholarships again every May 9. So I'll just toss that out there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If anyone's interested in being a realtor, just know that we've got some funds for you.
Cool.
Okay, anyone else? We're just now coming up on 7 o'clock. Is there any comments, questions from anyone? I'm watching the chat box, watching for any raised hands. It looks like we've answered everything so far. Is there any comments from anyone that wants to comment before we go?
Kathy, it's Andor again. One last question.
No, you go right ahead.
I'm sorry.
I can always count on Andorra. I love it because she asks the questions everybody wants to ask.
So if any of us were inclined to be wholesalers, what education, what training, what conferences, what books would you recommend?
I would get, my recommendations always get plugged in with somebody. Books and podcasts and conventions are great, but reach out to wholesalers and let them know that you're interested. We are looking for an acquisitions person right now. And what we're offering to them is tools and education and knowledge and commission. And it's a no-lose situation for that person, because they learn how to analyze real estate deals. They learn how to have conversation with sellers. They learn about what it looks like on the exit side, how we make those decisions about what we're going to do with the property. And they make commissions simultaneously. So it's getting paid to learn. I'd recommend reaching out to local people.
Is there
Yeah.
any local people in particular that you recommend? I know you said that when you said that your company's looking, like, what attributes or what would someone need other than the desire? I mean, I know you mentioned that you're real estate, and I presume not all of you are real estates and that a real estate agent, and that's not necessary, correct?
What's not necessary? I'm sorry, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
To be
That's
a
okay.
real estate agent?
Yes, correct.
No,
Oh, no.
I'm not. But Andorra, it doesn't hurt to be both. You know,
Yeah, the only reason I ask is I've been investing in real estate since 1989. So I've been doing this, and I've had to buy a lot of distressed properties just because I couldn't afford to buy the more expensive properties. And at that time I was single, and so I had to look for the best deals and what I could afford, and I didn't even know about, this borrowing money from other people. So I actually used the banks.
Right.
And then when I topped out at 7 loans, it was like, they were like, sorry, you're,
yeah, sorry.
yeah, sorry, you can't buy anymore. So this is all kind of new to me. And I know I'm presuming it's wholesalers that I'm getting calls from every day,
Yep.
Probably.
asking me, if I would like to sell.
Yep.
And such. So, and I'm always curious how they get my numbers. I presume they're getting them off of like Franklin County website, auditor site, and then Fairfield County auditor site.
Yeah. They buy lists. And
Yeah, they buy the lists.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I think to answer your question, as far as like what we're looking for in that acquisition person to kind of work with Christy and us, is a desire is huge. So just kind of that, wanting to learn more about the business and things like that, like Harvey talked about, but also just kind of, it's really, we base a lot of our hiring decisions based on personality. So somebody who is good with people and likes to take action, that's really the only requirements that we're looking for. You don't need to be a licensed real estate agent. Maybe some sales training is helpful, but also not necessary. So just a person with the right personality, we can kind of coach and mold into a good acquisitions person.
And you have to be okay with the possibility of not making any money for several months after you put in a lot of work. Contracts.
I get it.
But yeah, I think that's welcome to the real world.
Yeah, I get it.
Buying real estate, I always laugh because people always will say, well, how did you do that? They think it's a get rich quick scheme, and it's not. It's a slow, in my opinion, unless you're flipping it, but I've never flipped. And I think, Josh, you flipped before, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, we flip occasionally. I mean, again, kind of, if we have properties that don't fit the model for us to hold as rental properties, and we think we can get a higher margin by fixing them up and taking them to retail market, then we might do that. But I think also it depends on, I think what Harvey just said, like finding somebody working for them, that's probably the best way to do it, because you're just going to get that hands-on knowledge. But I think also just kind of like knowing yourself and the best way you learn. So besides that, there's a ton of other ways to learn how to do anything. There's courses, there's YouTube University, there's books. There's so many different ways. So I think just kind of knowing yourself and the ways that you gather and retain information. This whole kind of finding deal conversation is a conversation that we're having a lot recently. And I think especially for some of these more like what I call kind of grassroots tactics, whether you're trying to get started and you want to do a couple deals, or you're looking to, and you don't want to have a huge advertising budget, or if you're trying to supplement a huge advertising budget, we've kind of talked about maybe trying to put together all of these ideas and our thoughts on them in sort of a course type thing. That's not something we have a ton of experience with, but something we've talked about. So I don't know if that's interesting to anybody on the call. I'd be happy to talk more a little bit about that.
I would be interested. This is Andor. No, but the only thing is I work my full-time job.
Sure.
But I'm just curious but how much time does somebody have to have? And I presume you have to make a lot of these calls during the day. Is that correct?
No,
Really? Okay.
no. I mean, I do, because I'm better in the morning,
Yeah.
but in the evening, people are home.
Yeah. I'm curious just because, I can see definitely, just from listening to this conversation, approaching, because you're really helping them solve a problem, right? That's
That's what you're doing.
Yeah, you're helping them solve a problem that they view as unsolvable and that they don't know what to do with.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think again, kind of going back to like knowing yourself. So I mean, there are different ways to get these properties. So there's inbound marketing where we send out mail and then people call us to sell their house. That's inbound marketing. So they call us. And then there's outbound marketing where the people who are calling your phone every day, that's outbound marketing. They're up all day grinding out on the phones, calling people, trying to find somebody who wants to sell. So if you have a full-time job, then it probably makes more sense to explore some inbound marketing. You can start sending out direct mail to people who meet certain criteria. You can do that at night. So you get home from work, you can start prepping your mail and sending it out. And then, if you find somebody who's motivated to sell you their house at a discount, then they'll call you back so you don't have to spend all your time making phone calls during the day.
I have a question. What is your formula numbers for a property when you do get it to wholesale it? Because of course, in this market, my thoughts would be that all of the sellers would think they're getting top dollar. And of course, you have to have room in the deal. So what is your formula to even make a property work for you?
I can answer that, and then I want to make sure that Kyle has a chance. It looked like he had something to say or ask earlier, and we missed him.
Did I miss Kyle? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Sorry. So our standard formula where we start is 65% of ARV minus repairs. That's our goal. I don't know, Christy. I don't know how often we hit that, but it's not 100%.
It's not 100%, but it's not. I mean, we hit it more than I think we think.
Yeah, and the important thing in the market like this is when you're figuring out ARV, you can't use comps you can't even use comps from 3 months ago.
Nope.
In fact, we're using comps that are on the market.
Okay.
That's how quick.
Yeah, under contract comps.
Things are changing.
Yeah. Look at those. Look at the under contract comps.
Or listed comps.
Yep.
Yep. And then that's how we're calculating our ARV. And so that's the biggest change to the formula. I mean, we can do 65%, we can do 72% if we're going to hold it. We can even do, an 88 minus repairs minus profit if we think we're going to flip it. There's all kinds of formulas you can use. But the formula is only as good as the data going into it. And you want to make your data as useful and as current as it can be.
Yeah, and I think any real kind of deviation plus or minus from that formula is really based on the situation. So, if somebody needs to close, they want to sell their house and move to Zimbabwe and they need the money in their pocket tomorrow, and we might have to do like a 50% minus. But if moving to Zimbabwe tomorrow is the most important thing to them, then that might work for them.
Right.
Whereas if they're less motivated and they're thinking, maybe I go with a realtor, maybe I go with you, then maybe we can come up from our price a little bit. So any kind of deviation from there is really situation specific.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Vince says that Fiverr has people that will actually make calls for you for wholesaler. And then Andorra says, what about Redfin or Zillow? And then Christy, you made a note there that you like Redfin, that it was more accurate with more data.
That's my opinion. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want more information on how to find ARV, if you go to Simple Solutions Real Estate, which is our company, if you go to our Facebook page, we have a whole series called Classes with Christy where we talk about things like this. We did I don't know, maybe a 10-minute video on how to know what your home is worth. It was directed towards home sellers to educate home sellers so they know what their house is worth, but it's the same process. We dive into Redfin and how to use it to figure out what a property is worth now in the future.
Perfect. Okay, tell us how folks can get in touch with each of you, either separately or collectively. I'm not sure, how your business is actually set up for all three of you. So what is the best way for folks to connect?
Kyle, Kyle, did you have a question?
I was just going to jump in at the end on the subject of finding. One thing I don't think I've heard anybody mention quite directly yet was for sale by owners. I know I've always got my eyes peeled for those yard signs, and I've got friends and family that text me pictures of those yard signs.
Cool.
Just recently, I helped a friend. She found a house. We're looking on the MLS, and there's no inventory, nothing she liked. We found something on forsalebyowner.com that she liked, and she did want me to represent her as a buyer. Even though the seller wasn't using an agent, she wanted me looking out, for her fiduciary responsibilities to make sure she wasn't being taken advantage of. But we did actually find a really great home through For Sale by Owner recently too. So you don't want to forget about that.
Yep.
thank
Great.
you.
Yep. I have recently bought my last purchase was a FISBO. That's great advice.
It is perfect.
Oh, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the collective, we are on Facebook, Simple Solutions Real Estate. We also have a YouTube channel. There's some content on there. A lot of good videos on there, and we're kind of going to keep some of that stuff coming, so you can check that out. And then personally, wherever I'm on Facebook, I'm pretty sure I'm friends with most of you already on Facebook, but if not, you can go there, or Instagram at Josh Hively.
Christy.
Same thing. I'm on Facebook. I am not on Instagram. I'm not a
grammar.
I don't love the social media. Or you know what? My phone numbers, I'll put my phone number in the chat. If you need something, call and ask.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Like I already mentioned, checking out Simple Solutions Real Estate for a series of videos there. I already mentioned that we have the Newbie Real Estate Investor Meetup, which is back in person and happening. I can't remember. I think it's the third Thursday of every month this summer. After we finish the commercial real estate series, we're going into a how to be a wholesaler series, which is kind of relevant to this.
There you go, Andorra.
We also have a page called Beers and Business, and we have 3 episodes out. We filmed 4 episodes. We sit down with local entrepreneurs, we drink local beer at local places, and we just talk about business, and they give us their backstory and dive into something specific about that they're really passionate about or good at in their business. So we've interviewed Sean Graybo, who's another big wholesaler in Columbus. We've interviewed Mitch Dominski, who is a broker and property manager for Solutions for Real Estate. We've interviewed Sarah Karakayan, of Nesters, who is freaking stud. And we have another one coming out with Luke Walker, who owns and operates Luke's Auto in Clintonville, which is one of the biggest independently owned automotive service locations in Columbus. 4.9 stars, 300 reviews, just a great business. So that one's coming out soon. So check that out. And then obviously, if you know someone or you yourself have a property that you need to sell quick, that is a distressed property that needs repairs, doesn't make sense to take it to market for whatever reason, please reach out to any of the 3 of us, and we're happy to figure out if we can be a solution to you or not. And if we can't be, then we'll point you in the right direction.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. If I could maybe get one of you to type that information into the chat box so that folks can have that. I will give a little hint before we move on. If you open up your chat box, if you're listening, and click on the three little dots right there at the bottom where it says type your message here, and you click on those dots, there is an option to save the chat. So that way you don't have to try to write everything down, or you can simply open up your chat and take a screen print. And that way you have the chat that way as well. I want to talk a little bit about the Happy House Hunters before we go. Again, we meet the first Tuesday night of every month, which is what this meetup is here tonight. And it is at 6 o'clock on Zoom, and it is recorded. And then I will also put again in the chat where you can find those replays. And we have a couple of years worth of replays there. And we go through the 6 F's of real estate every 6 months. So you'll see a lot of content there. And then we're just now starting the 4th Thursday of every month. We're going to do a meet and greet where we're going to pass the microphone and everyone gets to share who they are, what they do, and you know, what they can bring to the group and what it is they're looking for from the group. And so we're hoping that that's going to turn into a great networking opportunity, and that's going to be at Gresso's in person. And so with that, we do have our leadership team. Kyle, I'd like for you to just give a brief little introduction on you and what you do.
Again, my name's Kyle. I've been working with Stephanie and Kathy for, gosh, I forget how many years. I've been doing real estate about 9 years now, and along with the Happy House Hunters since before COVID. And then, of course, we kept going strong through COVID, thanks to our glorious leader, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you. And Kyle, how can we get in touch with you?
My email is kyle.brandon@exprealty.com. And of course, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all of the things.
Perfect. Perfect. And thank you for being part of our team. We also have Derek on board. Derek, I see that you're on mute, and also you had turned your camera off, but I see you're still there. Can you give us a brief introduction? He's on our leadership team. He may have stepped away. We'll see if he comes on here.
If he put in the chat, he had to run.
Okay. Oh, okay. And Andorra, you're also on our leadership team. Did you have any final comments and how folks can maybe connect with you?
Sure. So I'm Andorra Marshall. Been doing real estate since 1989. Happy to have found Kathy because when I first got into this, I was always trying to find other real estate investors to ask questions and couldn't find anyone. And then I worked full time at American Electric Power and cybersecurity. So this was just my side gig, but I definitely have a passion for it. But one of my goals is to buy at least 2 condos and areas that I like to vacation. We just recently sold our St. Petersburg, Florida condo, bought it in 2014, and it doubled in price. So I was very happy with that, but I'm still kind of regretting selling that one as well, because what the bad thing is that when you do sell, you're selling high, but then you're going to buy high. So where do you go? To get a hold of me, it's andorralees@yahoo.com. I'm also on Facebook. So this was, I wish I would have been able to start from the beginning, listen to you guys. This was very, very interesting, but I was down in Carroll all day today restaining. So I had paint in my hair and I painted this wall tub. So it's like, I had forgotten completely about it. So I apologize. And I'm not on video because I literally got out of the shower to get on this call.
Well, we're glad you're here. Yes, we're glad you're here. I'm trying to talk Andorra into buying a condo, and well, maybe she'll even buy the one that I'm talking about that's in probate. Yeah, then we can be like neighbors down there. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on board. I love that all of you are here, and thank you to Harvey and Christy and Josh. Again, we've had Harvey and Josh on before. Christy, I'm sure we're going to see more of you. And have you on from time to time as well. A wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much. If you scroll back through our replays, you'll see Harvey and Josh already in the replays back along the way. And then again, you'll see me and Kyle and Brandon and Andorra all over Happy House Hunters. We're posting. We also have a second Facebook group called Landlord Ladies of Ohio. Because a lot of times the women feel a little intimidated because some of you guys are, just, burning up the pavement out there. So we do encourage them to also attend the Happy House Hunters meetup. So thank you everyone for being on board today. This is recorded. Please visit the Kathy Benner International Academy.teachable.com for all the replays, and come out to these meetups. Come out to the ones with Harvey and Josh and Christy, and also with us with the Happy House Hunters, and we will see you around.
Thank you, Kathy.
All
Thanks,
right.
Kathy.
See everybody later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.